Welcome back to another episode of the House Husband Diaries. As always, I am your host, Carter C. And today, I am getting back in the box. So I'm going to take a couple video break on the themes. I've got more themes. Don't you worry. And for now, I want to get back in the box. And I'm not talking about box canyons or boxy this or, the treasure chest being a box. I'm talking about getting back to the poem. And, the themes come back to the poem in some way or in the book. But I've been doing a lot of research on quotes recently and trying to figure out. I watched the Playboy interview from Jason Dent had posted like almost a year ago. And I went through that a couple of times, looking at Terry Scant and just trying to figure out what we know about where Warm Waters Halt. What we don't know is a lot of it, but what I started putting these quotes in some sort of, they're not a timeline as far as when Forrest said them. They're in a timeline, like a logical timeline is what I would say. And so I've got 9 quotes or so, 10 quotes. And kind of the original idea of this video was going to be hints, at least one hint, if not more than one hint, in The Thrill of the Chase must lead us to where Warm Waters Halt. Because if he puts 9 clues in the poem, the first clue is begin it where Warm Waters Halt. And then he has hints to help us with the clues in the book. When we don't know where Warm Waters Halt is, we need to know where Warm Waters Halt to begin the chase. So you would need some hints or some clues, or I guess hints to the clue of how to begin if you didn't know how to begin. Now, if you're a poem-only purist and not the book or not any of the other books, and you would say, well, no, begin it where Warm Waters Halt is enough for us to find where Warm Waters Halt. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, but if you're going to go to the length of writing a book and go to the lengths of putting hints in the book, I would imagine it follows for me, logically, that at least one of those hints would be to the first clue to help identify the first clue. Because if you don't help the people, the searchers, your audience find the first clue, then they would never, they would never find the treasure chest. And if all of your hints were to clues 6, 7, and 8, then what's the point of putting hints in there when you need to get the first one? So I imagine that the hints, at least one, is to where Warm Waters Halt, and then possibly to the second, third, who knows. Maybe there's hints to all 9 clues. I don't know. He says a couple, he says a few, but I wonder, with all the themes and all of the, I was talking to another searcher the other night, and he's got more books, and he reads all the other Once Upon a While, Too Far to Walk, I think are the other 2 books. And I don't have those. I don't ever plan really necessarily to buy those. If I do come up with a solve and I do find the treasure chest, I will go back to the Collected Works bookstore and I will buy, Once Upon a While and Too Far to Walk just to make the collection, as a display with all the treasure, right? But not really planning on that. So, without much more discussion, let's get into the quotes, and then what we'll do, I'll try to take you in this timeline of quotes and try to logically work, not to identify where Warm Waters Halt necessarily, but to see if we can't kind of narrow down some logic around where Warm Waters Halt. We'll see. All right, quote number 1. The problem searchers make is that they don't dwell long enough on the first clue. If you can't find the first clue, you don't have anything. Now, some of these I put dates by, some of these I put where they were. Honestly, I was searching and I was like, okay, like it's a legit quote. It comes up multiple times, and I'm like, I'll just let you, if you question it, then you can go do the research and go find out where it was said and all that other jazz. So I've heard that quote a number of times. I looked it up, and yeah. So we don't dwell long enough on the first clue, right? So where Warm Waters Halt. That's what we're going to start dwelling on at the House Husband Diaries. So I'm still going to do themes, but we're going to dwell on where Warm Waters Halt. Quote number 2. You should start with the first clue and follow the others consecutively to the treasure chest or to the treasure. Okay, so we got to start with the first clue. So this is what I'm saying. People aren't, searchers aren't dwelling on the first clue, aren't dwelling long enough on the first clue. We should start with the first clue. Okay, well, if we're going to start with the first clue, if we're going to dwell on the first clue, I imagine there's hints to help us with the first clue. I know it's not airtight logic, but it makes sense. It follows that one, if we're not dwelling on the first clue long enough, there's probably a hint somewhere in there that helps guide us to where Warm Waters Halt. All right, third quote. This is from March 26, 15, Mysterious Writings. I think this one might have been to 49 or something. I don't remember. I didn't write that first part down. Maybe that was down lower in a future quote. But March 26, 2015, on Mysterious Writings, Fenn responds, I cannot tell you how many searchers have identified the first clue correctly, but certainly more than several. So, more than several, right? And several is defined as more than 2, but not many. So at least 3, and I haven't looked up the definition of many, so, 7, 15, I don't know what your definition of many is. I think it varies, kind of arbitrary, like warm, right? What you think is many, I may not think is many. What you think is warm, I may not think is warm. But he says, I cannot tell you how many searchers have identified the first clue correctly, but certainly more than several. And that was back in 2015, early 2015, like pre-search time. So the winter or early spring of 2015. So I guess it started in 10. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 to maybe 5 years of the chase had been going on. In more than several searchers have identified the first clue correctly. So they found where Warm Waters Halt. And then this was a quote that somebody either commented or emailed me or something, and they kind of found it, and I looked for it and then found it. And so it says, and this is why some people argue that the hints in the book, The Thrill of the Chase, do not point to where Warm Waters Halt. And that's because of this quote. They say, Forrest says, until someone finds the treasure, they will not know for sure that they have discovered the first clue. And so I don't take that to mean that there's not a hint to where Warm Waters Halt. He says we'll go with confidence to the treasure chest. You find the map, if you can decipher the clues, the poem is like a map to the treasure chest. Well, I still think there's a hint to where Warm Waters Halt because several people have found it. They didn't know it, as we'll see, but they've actually, well, I'll hold on. So let's go to quote number 5. This was May 8th, 2015, so about a month and a half after the quote where he says several, more than several, have correctly identified the first clue. A month and a half later, May 8th, 2015, there have been some who have been within 500 feet because they have told me where they have been. Others had figured the first two clues and went right past the treasure and didn't know it. First two clues. February 25th, 2017. Some searchers have been within 200 feet. Within. And somebody on some chat said, how close is within? Within 200 feet could be, 150 feet away from the treasure chest. It could be 12 feet away from the treasure chest. We have no idea. It's within 200 feet. I'm within 1,000 miles of Memphis, Tennessee. Okay, you have no idea how far I am from Memphis, Tennessee, but I'm within 1,000 miles. So, all right, quote 7. Some folks correctly mentioned the first two clues to me in an email, and then when they went right past the other 7, not knowing they had been so close. So, quote 7 and quote 5 kind of go together. Quote 5, he says, there have been some who have been within 500 feet because they have told me where they have been. Others have figured the first two clues and went right past the treasure and didn't know it. And then this one was, some folks correctly mentioned the first two clues to me in an email, and then they went right past the other 7, not knowing they had been so close. So you figure the first two clues get you to at least 500, if not 200 feet. Now, I don't know if the searchers that have been within 200 feet were following clues, or if they just happened to roam around long enough at where Warm Waters Halt, or the second clue, if they had figured that correctly, and they just wandered around enough that they were within 200 feet of the treasure. But what I think is so interesting is more than one person, some folks have correctly mentioned the first two clues to me. And then they went right past the other 7. So what does that mean? So if you're a one line, one clue kind of guy, and I say that I am for ease of discussion. If it's beginning where Warm Waters Halt is 1, taking in the canyon down is 2, line, of the clues, then they've taken it in the canyon down. Now, I'm starting to, as I think this through, move towards not far but too far to walk goes with and take it in the canyon down. Every time I try to delineate the 9 clues, to separate them and say this is clue 1, this is clue 2, I'm going to try to, I don't know that it really matters until I'm out there. And it certainly doesn't matter unless I have where Warm Waters Halt correct. So if you figured out the first 2 clues and you've been there, you're within 500 feet, maybe even within 200 feet of the treasure chest. Where Warm Waters Halt is probably within 500 feet of the treasure chest, in my opinion, looking at all of these quotes. Quote 7b, similar. There are several people that have deciphered the first 2 clues. I don't think they knew it because they walked right on past the treasure chest, or the treasure. So 7b is sort of like number 5 and number 7. Those quotes are all so very similar. He said multiple times, several people have deciphered the first 2 clues. He doesn't think that they knew it because they walked right on past the treasure chest. They went right past the other 7 clues, not knowing they had been so close. So there's something, and then he says there's people that have been within 500 feet, there's searchers that have been within 200 feet, but obviously they don't know it. And these quotes go back to at least 2015, if not earlier. So my feeling is that where Warm Waters Halt is within 500 feet or so of the treasure chest. And then I want to change. I've got two more quotes, but I thought it was really interesting because one was from 2015. I'll read that one here. And then the last one was from I believe it was 2019 when that Playboy, I think it was Germany, interview happened that Jason Dent was around for and posted on his channel. So the first one from 2015, the first quote is, "What surprises me a little is that nobody, to my uncertain knowledge, has analyzed one important possibility to the winning solve." Now here's what I find so fascinating about this quote in 2015. He's already said in 2015 that people have correctly identified the first two clues and they've been searching, right? That was in 2015. There have been some who have been within 500 feet because they have told me where they have been. Others have figured the first two clues and went right past the treasure and didn't know it. That was March of 2015, or May of 2015. Not sure when this "what surprises him" quote came out, but it was also in 2015. And he's saying what surprises him a little is that nobody, to his uncertain knowledge, has analyzed one important possibility related to the winning solve. Well, apparently that one important possibility that you need to analyze has nothing to do with the first two clues. It may have something to do with how the second clue is connected to the third clue because people are missing that connection. Is that home of Brown put in below the home of Brown? It might be. That's a pretty good place to start with people being confused about what home of Brown is, if that's the third clue. And so we need to analyze that. Well, if you found the first two, I'm going to try to stick with where Warm Waters Halt. But when I was listening to the Playboy interview, my last quote for this video that I'll share is a long one. And it's similar to the last quote. "I'm a little bit surprised that it hasn't been found, but there's one thing, I think important thing, that nobody has thought about on all the blogs. Nobody has thought about it. If they had thought about that, they might have found the treasure. And I'm very careful not to tell anybody what that is." So I'm pretty sure that was from, I think Jason said it was from like April or something of 2019, earlier in 2019. So it's like 4 years after the quote above, the second to last quote that I read. So he's still surprised that no one has thought about on all the blogs one important thing. Now, is that the same thing as what Forrest told K-Pro and Cal and some other people about there's one word that is key and it's in the poem? Is that the one thing that nobody's thought about, nobody's analyzed? But I think what's really interesting is people have figured out the first two clues without analyzing one important thing. So to me, what would you need to analyze and figure out and think about? Look at the big picture. All of these other quotes that helped you once you've identified where Warm Waters Halt, and then the second clue, whether it's take it in the canyon down or take it in the canyon down, not far but too far to walk. And does that one thing, that one important possibility, would it help solidify your where Warm Waters Halt? Do they not know that they have the correct where Warm Waters Halt because they haven't thought of this one possibility? Now, Forrest says, until someone finds the treasure, they will not know for sure that they have discovered the first clue. Is that because you haven't analyzed and thought about one important thing, one important theme? Is it a theme? I don't know. I'm really interested. I'm very much, I think you can find it using the book and using the poem. But I've been thinking a lot lately about how old Forrest is getting. We all lose the battle with time. And at some point, whether it's, 10 years from now, 100 years from now, whenever, Forrest will no longer be with us. And there will no longer be quotes coming out. There will no longer be scrapbooks and books and, what have you. And so if he had passed away before he ever wrote Too Far to Walk, Once Upon a While, all of these other things, there's enough here to get us to the treasure chest. So looking at some of these quotes, is there a way to kind of decipher and bring back, all right, let's bring it back to where Warm Waters Halt. There's something important that we're missing. Okay, well, what are people talking about? Well, if people are talking about it, then I don't want to spend any time on it. Because if people are talking about it, then it's not important, right? It's not leading us to the treasure chest because it's already been talked about, it's already been discussed. So is that a different type of water potentially, or warm? Is it the hot spring situation? If nobody is talking about or focused on, I guess I could have used some of the only a few are in type focus with a word that is key and that stuff. But I'll start doing some quote videos as well and moving forward with this kind of thought process of how do we put these puzzle pieces back together to say, okay, people have gotten really close, but they didn't know it. Why? Is it because there's a leap? Is there some imagination between clue 2 and 3 that we need? There's something important, something that nobody's thought about. Nobody's thought about on the blogs. And I'll say this, if anybody can tell me and point me in a direction, I emailed Cynthia, and I just like within the last 24 hours, while I'm recording this video will play probably about a week after I record it, because I've recorded a bunch of other stuff. And so maybe before this records, she will have gotten back to me, or before this video airs, she will have gotten back to me. And this isn't calling her out at all. I know she's busy, and there's absolutely no reason for her to respond anyway. I don't expect it, but I did email her because I was looking on her website, and she said something about, for clue 1, that Forrest certainly nixed tears as a potential where Warm Waters Halt, because she and some others had that as an idea. Well, I've looked on Terry Scant, and I've looked elsewhere and tried. I did a quick skim of Reddit, and I've never heard anything about tears. And so I just asked her, when did Forrest say that? When did he nix tears as being where Warm Waters Halt? And what is that? I mean, was that early on? Was that like 11 and 12? And Terry Scant just doesn't have anything about it. But I don't see that on forums as a popular thing or a thought that's been explored. And then what are some potential other topics or potential other ideas that we can bat around for where Warm Waters Halt? Since that's where we're beginning. And then what is not far but too far to walk? If you're taking it in the canyon down, not far but too far to walk, I think that's that's a place where we can be imaginative. I don't think it's 10 miles. I don't think it's 50 miles. I think that's just too long of a distance to keep the integrity of the map and the poem. I could be completely wrong on that. It seems, unless I find something that is just locked in, and it is just from this point to that point, you take it in the canyon down, and it's a physical canyon, and it's 10 miles or whatever, and that is this point and that point, and there's definitely a confirmer for that. I'm thinking maybe this whole poem and this whole map is actually within a couple 100 feet of where you park, and it's a really quick deal to get it. It's just, you park, you follow the clues, you're there, and you can get it in all within 5 or 10 minutes. 2 trips, maybe, 15, 20 minutes. But I'm probably not going to take 2 trips. If I find it, I'm putting it in a bag, and I'm running, or I might just carry it out because I may not even have a book bag because I won't expect to find it. Who knows? Anyway, this video is getting long. So those are like 9, 10 quotes that I wanted to consolidate, put out there in one place, in one video, about where warm waters halt, the first two clues, getting close, but but missing something important that maybe would connect clues 1 and 2 to clues 3 through 9. So I hope you guys are having a great day. Thanks so much for watching, for liking, for subscribing, for commenting. I really enjoy all of this. And yeah, just keep on keeping on. Have a great day. And we'll talk to you on the next episode of the House Husband Diaries.